YouTube are the NBA awards, like MVP, Most Improved Player, DPOY, along with the All NBA team selections and All Defense selections becoming more of a formality and less of something to be taken seriously and honored and respected. It's a conversation that people have been having in the NBA community for a long time, particularly around the MVP award, with all the toxicity that's went into that discussion for the past few years. We're going to get into, how the MVP award became devalued and how it's starting to affect other awards and people's perception of them. And listen, this is a very relevant topic because if you guys saw on Twitter or whatever, there was an actual NBA voter who, the media and a lot of people vote on these awards. That's how they select these players for these things. There was an actual media person, a real life human being that voted Domantas Sabonis 4th for the MVP voting, 3rd for DPOY, All NBA first team, and All Defensive first team. And what I would like to ask you is, and maybe this person, if you're watching this video, are we watching the same league right now? Because it doesn't really seem like it to me. We'll get into all of these topics and more, but first, on an unrelated, more lighthearted note, on a scale of 1 to 10, how funny is this mustache? Like, be real with me. You guys can roast me if you want to. I think it's kind of funny. I actually think it's really funny. That's why I sat down and recorded with it. Does it make me look like a supervillain? Let me know down in the comments. Like one of those supervillains from the movies, the mustache twirlers. Could I be a Sith Lord in a movie is what I'm trying to ask. And that's not why you guys are here. That's not why you clicked on this video. I apologize. Let's get into the video. Nah, I'm kidding. But on a more serious note, let's get back to the video. Why you guys clicked on this thing. This is a real issue in my opinion. A lot of people make jokes of this and really want this guy's vote to be taken away from him. And I can understand that point of view, but I think it's a larger issue that people are failing to see. And, something I thought about over the past couple of days is this isn't just a one-time thing. I mean, if you guys remember a couple of years ago, I think it was last year in 2023, Mark, with all due respect, Jackson, if you guys know who that is, if you know, you know, shout out to you. I believe voted against Nikola Jokic on his All NBA first team. I mean, there was so much Jokic and Embiid stuff going on, and it just begs the question, like, if these are the people voting on these awards, these really, really important awards that makes a certain player really, really credible and is a really big deal on their, legacy, can even impact their contract situation. There's contract incentives with All NBA first teams and All NBA teams, stuff like that. Like, for one, these are players' livelihoods that are being affected, but also their legacy and reputation. But if these are the types of people voting on these awards, Kendrick Perkins too, I forgot to mention him. Kendrick Perkins has a vote. I don't even have to go into that. How can we really take these seriously if so many of these people voting are so biased and so against certain players on, or for certain players, as we saw with the Sabonis thing, while voting for these awards? Like, if you're so clearly trying to push an agenda with your award voting for something so serious and so impactful in the NBA community and for these players, how can you possibly take these awards seriously anymore? The MVP used to really, really mean something. I remember back in 2011, Derrick Rose winning it was such a big deal. He became the youngest player to win the MVP award in NBA history. There was a big discussion around, LeBron should have won it or whatever. But the NBA, MVP award was like a huge, huge deal back in the day. When I first started watching around 2010, it was, if you were an MVP, if you had multiple MVPs, you were a god. You were a basketball god. That really stood out on someone's resume. Now it's more like, you see Jokic 3-time MVP or see Giannis 2-time MVP, and it's like, yeah, who cares? With so much conversation around things like voter fatigue we see often, which is a real thing, and maybe some questionable selections like Steve Nash in the early 2000s, if you guys remember that one. And listen, none of these players aren't great. We're not saying that. All of these players are great players, including Domantas Sabonis. I think he obviously is deserving of an All NBA selection. He is one of the best big men in the entire NBA, hands down, no question about it. Dude's special. But how could this happen in an award voting? You know what I mean? How is this even possible? How could a real human being watch basketball across the league, carefully consider all of his, votes and selections that he's going to make, and come up with that result? Like, it's clear that there's, some bias or agenda being pushed here. And it really makes me ask a question that I've been wanting to ask and talk about on YouTube for a long time. We've talked about all of the, impacts it can have on someone's career as a player, how important these awards should be, and, how they should mean something, how they used to. Maybe they're a little bit less now in terms of the fans' perspectives. The question is, how impactful is this one voter or these few voters every year that have these outrageous ballots and these outrageous, selections? What does that mean for the credibility of the awards as a whole? Because there's a ton of voters in these things, hundreds, I believe. So if one guy or a couple guys are, pushing an agenda or just making outrageous predictions and selections and stuff like that, excuse me, not predictions, but just picks, right? What does that mean for the overall of the award? Because obviously, most of the time we get the good result that we want. And I would say 95% of the voters, voters, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I would just say off a general feeling and vibe, about 95% of the voters are legitimately trying to take this seriously and carefully consider these things and legitimately pick the best guy for the thing, whatever it may be, all NBA selection, defensive selection, all these awards. I really believe that a lot, most people that are voting take it super seriously, and it should be, right? But like I said, the question is, if one or a few people even are doing this year in and year out, what does that mean for the credibility of the award and, the weight behind each award specifically? Well, I personally think that if you have a few bad voters and a couple voters like this every year, that changes the entire integrity of the award as a whole. I really do believe that. It's kind of like, for me, a good example would be, if you guys, are following baseball at all or have throughout your life, you know that Barry Bonds and the steroid era, hitters are a big point of contention in the baseball community, the MLB community, whether or not to let Barry Bonds, who has the most home runs of all time, into the Hall of Fame. And people like Barry Bonds, right, who clearly have all the numbers and accolades to be able to get into the Hall of Fame, but quite frankly, they cheated, right? And do you let someone like that in the Hall of Fame? Because, at the end of the day, people say for Barry Bonds, oh, well, he would have had all those numbers regardless, but he did cheat, right? And so what does that mean for all the other Hall of Famers that didn't cheat and got there by, hard work, dedication, all-time great production and talent? I would feel some type of way if I was those guys. You know what I mean? I did it the right way. I worked my tail off and I got into the Hall of Fame because of all of my, personal hard work and dedication to the game. I'm being honored with the Hall of Fame now. All of a sudden, these guys who are cheating are being let into the same prestigious, very few selections into the Hall of Fame. My opinion is, if you let one steroid user into the Hall of Fame, I'm not talking, there's some little things where a guy gets caught suspended for 10 games or whatever. I'm not talking about things like that. I'm talking about, someone who's clearly on steroids for a long stretch of their career and it clearly affects their numbers and accolades. If you let Barry Bonds into the Hall of Fame, that really taints the whole Hall of Fame, in my opinion, because you lose the integrity of what it means to be a Hall of Famer, what it means to put that jacket on, what it means to go up there and give that speech, right? If you let one cheater into that room, the entire MLB loses its integrity, in my opinion, right? You have to question a lot of, decisions that go after that. You have to question a lot of the people that came before that. It's just a whole mess that, cheaters and voters who have bias and an agenda should not be getting these votes in the NBA, and they should really crack down on it if you're the NBA. If that guy votes next season, that's going to be absolutely insane, because it totally devalues the award, right? And the awards are something that the NBA likes to market and promote, as they should, because it's a big, thing that a lot of people care about, and it's something you could really sell from a marketing standpoint. But if you are saying that the MVP of the regular season is the most valuable player across every team, across every player, and that's the greatest honor you can have as an NBA player other than a finals MVP, basically, you want to make sure that the voters are voting fairly and carefully considering every candidate, because otherwise the whole thing loses meaning. If more of these guys pop up every single season, and it's just absolutely absurd, you know what I mean? I personally like when the MVP and all these awards are a big celebrated thing and they really are taken seriously, because at the end of the day, for these players, they have nothing to do with it, right? It's the fans, it's the media, it's the voters that, create all the controversy and stir it up. The players are just out there playing basketball, and, the select few that get these awards deserve to be celebrated. Like, we shouldn't have to wonder or question whether or not, someone's legitimate as an MVP or a DPOY or an MIP. These awards have really lost a lot of their, punch and weight to them. If you told someone back in the day, like, there's a two-time MVP, Steve Nash, Dirk Nowitzki, MVP, Kobe Bryant, MVP, Shaquille O'Neal, MVP, that's like a big deal, man. Allen Iverson, I know for my city, was the biggest deal. Other than Dr. J, and I think maybe Moses Malone, Wilt Chamberlain, like, he was the latest guy to get it, and we talked about that ever since, right? Ever since last year when Joel won it. But my point is, as more of these discussions happen, and as more news headlines these make, and as more, people come out as being biased voters and clearly just, leaving people off ballots or putting them on because of their own agenda or weird thing they have going on with a certain player, the less and less people care about these awards, and the less and less, impactful these awards actually are for a person's legacy. And that is hurtful for the game of basketball across the board, no question about it. These awards have been a staple and a direct form of legacy, accolades, and they're so important for the game. They're so important for the community. They're so important for NBA discussions, dialogues, debates. Like, if these awards no longer mean anything, I mean, like I said, it really hurts the game. It hurts the brand. It hurts basketball in general. These are supposed to be fun things, and where we honor once a year all these great players. And I feel like it's becoming, something completely different. It's becoming a popularity contest a lot of times. It's becoming something totally different that has, at the end of the day, a lot of basically nothing to do with basketball. basketball for some of these awards and some of these selections. And I know out of all these hundreds of people that vote and stuff like that, you're never going to have a perfect consensus, and you're never going to have, but these, at the end of the day, all you can ask is really integrity of the vote and integrity of the decisions, right? Like what's happening now with the Sabonis thing is just laughable. I mean, how many times are we going to hear about this as NBA fans before we just completely don't care about MVPs at all, right? Like these will just be something to make fun of or completely discredit every award winner throughout NBA history, because now it's like totally different than what it was. So, you know, there's only so many ways I can say that, but that's true. Another great example I can think of before I end the video is, you guys remember in 2013, LeBron James was second or runner-up in DPOY that year. In my opinion, and I think everyone's opinion, should have won it that year. He was the best defensive player in the world, most versatile. Marc Gasol ended up winning the award, who's also a great all-time dominant defender. I'm not saying that, but Marc Gasol ended up on the All-NBA second team defense that year. So, you know, people wonder, like, how does a guy on the All-NBA defensive second team win DPOY, right? How does that even happen, right? That's reserved for the best player in the entire world defensively in the NBA that season, right? And LeBron ended up making All-NBA first team defense and, you know, runner-up in DPOY, but the second best defensive center in the world ends up winning DPOY. How does that, you know, I'm not a mathematician, but something doesn't seem right in those numbers there. Voter fatigue is another hot button issue. You know, if we're, you know, really looking at it, voter fatigue is a real thing in my opinion, because a lot of times you just get tired of voting the MVP. You know, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, these guys could have won 10 MVPs if we're being serious about it. You know, you're going to tell me that LeBron James wasn't the best NBA player, the most valuable to his team in 2011, basically from 2009 or 2010 all the way up to, like, you know, 2018. You could make a case that he should have won MVP every single year. He was the best player in the world, no question about it, for all of that time. And I get, as a voter, you might want to give a guy an award who, you know, is on the come up, and you say, you know, maybe subconsciously, not maliciously, you say, oh, this guy, you know, LeBron's won 4 MVPs. He's, you know, he's getting all the flowers he wants and needs. If we just give every award to LeBron, no one else is going to win awards. No one else, you know, that really hurts their legacy. So I want to be fair to these young guys and these other guys who obviously deserve these awards. Like, I'm not saying Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Giannis don't deserve these awards back then, or KD, or whoever won during that time. But if we're holding the award to the standard of the language that it is, the most valuable player to their team's success, if we're holding the award to that standard, LeBron and Jordan would have around 10 MVPs, right? And so voter fatigue's a real thing, and you see a lot of that kind of stuff. But, you know, not wanting to look bad as a voter, because I think people's votes are all, you know, measured and given out to the public and stuff like that. So if we're really supposed to take these awards seriously, I think it's one of those things that has to be a full stop thing. Like, the award has to mean a ton, or it can't mean anything at all. It's kind of one of those things for me. I don't really look at the world like that a lot of times. I try to see a lot of nuance in big things like this, like the NBA, and that's why, you know, I have so many videos on my channel talking about, you know, stuff like that. But not everything's black and white. Very few things are black and white in my opinion, but in this regard, I do believe it is. You have one voter that's biased and, you know, corrupt and has an agenda, whatever. It really taints the image and perspective of the award, and it should, because you let one guy vote like that, then you have to question every single voter and every single voter's motives and every single voter's favorite team and favorite player and stuff like that. So it's a really big issue. Let me know down in the comments section about my mustache. No, I'm kidding. Let me know down in the comments section about what you think of this issue. This is crazy, right? I've never seen something this blatant in the voting. You know, I see a lot of voter fatigue and Mark Jackson and stuff like that, Kendrick Perkins, but it's not even that blatant for them, in my opinion. You know, this is just like undeniable bias and absurdities that you just have to laugh at, right? Or else you'll go insane. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you guys drop a like if you did. Like I said, communicate in the comments. I love talking to you guys down there. You guys are amazing. Thank you guys for all the support lately. I really appreciate you. Hopefully you guys had a great weekend. Hope you guys are enjoying the conference finals as much as I am. This Mavs Wolves series is nuts. Looks like the Celtics are going to the finals. They're up 3-0 right now. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day today. And are the awards meaningless, or are they important and should be looked at that way? I lean more to the latter, but you guys have to let me know down in the comments. How could this happen? You know, how could a voter like this be put in charge of something so big? Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. We upload content just like this every day on the channel, every single day. You'll never miss a video. If you guys subscribe, turn on post notifications, we would love to have you. Be honored. I'm just a passionate basketball fan who loves sharing my, you know, passion and thoughts, and, you know, I get a lot of things wrong. So if you guys want to point them out, I'm totally accepting of that. You know, I love learning new things. You guys are always, you know, giving me really good insight down in the comments. So don't be afraid to disagree with me or say something that, you know, maybe isn't so popular. That's what I do every day. So hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I'll talk to you in the next one. This is your boy D-Haven, as always. Peace.